Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a nice month, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, let's get right into the news here because there's quite to cover on this Sunday. And of course, the mainstream media will not be talking about this because if they did, they would have to admit the wrongdoing that took place in Arizona and its elections in Maricopa County and the negligence that took place and, of course, maybe even the purposeful way they handled things in Maricopa County. And of course, we know the Maricopa County Supervisor of Elections conspired with Katie Hobbs in order to ensure that Katie Hobbs would win the election. Maricopa County Supervisor of Elections bored a couple of those individuals great into PAC in order to stop Kari Lake. A board that's supposed to be nonpartisan decided to go ahead and take partisan sides because they understood what Kari Lake was all about, that they knew that she wasn't America First, Arizona First, protect the border and ensure that we have quality and trustworthy elections moving forward, and they did not need that to happen with Kari Lake breathing down their necks if she became governor. So what they did, they conspired, and even during the lawsuit, when you guys watch that trial that took place last week, where one of a couple of individuals perjured themselves during that trial, where they changed their story and purged it themselves, they decided to change their story. Nobody called him out, the judge. They lied right in front of the judge, and judge didn't say anything. Absolutely disgraceful. And of course, Kari Lake busted them in when it took place. So let's get to take a look what we have here. Coming to us from Kari Lake's Twitter account over here. She says in just a few hours later, his entire story changed. What did they say to Elections Director Jared in this 3-hour meeting? Voters outside of Maricopa County have no voice. As long as Maricopa County runs a circus, and she's talking about this. Dudes over here being coached by the attorneys. It says a picture is worth 1,000 words. I wonder how many votes it's worth. She absolutely busted them coaching this election official July. Right. Just a few hours later, the entire story changed. What did they say to Elections Director and Jarrett? And that 3-hour meeting? Just absolutely disgraceful what's taking place in our nation, especially across the states that voters are being disenfranchised because their votes? Their voices are not being heard. And when you silence voices, whether it's Katie Hobbs writing to Twitter, telling Twitter to silence any of her opponents, anyone who was tweeting negative things about or factual things which she would take negatively, she is a 2-time convicted individual or convicted racist who was convicted in a court of law being a racist in the state of Arizona. That is not opinion, that is fact. And she did not want people to know about that until she ensured that she was going to make sure those voices were silent. And then when the Maricopa County election official was on the stand the first time, talked about the procedures one way, and then he came back after having a meeting with the Maricopa County and Katie Hobbs, his team, he came back with a whole new story. Absolutely disgraceful. I think Kari Lake's lawsuit, as it moves up the chain as it's been filed, as it will go to the Arizona Supreme Court. And I see that playing out here in the next few weeks. It's going to open a lot of eyes. And of course, the mainstream media is going to do our best to ignore it and ensure that the majority of the country does not hear about it because they don't want this to spread to other parts of the nation where there was election issues. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia. They cannot have these people looking into how they run elections. So good for Kari Lake. I want her to expose all of it. I want her to continue to push forward. I want a redo in the state of Arizona, especially in Maricopa County, and have a watchful eye. Maybe have the sheriff's department come in and watch these elections to make sure they go off without a hitch. And then, this is some big news. President Trump rips Democrats and the Supreme Court following the release of his personal tax returns. On Friday, the Democrats in the House destroyed President Trump's right to privacy and released his tax returns of the last 6 years. The members of the U.S. House, led by Nancy Pelosi, who released these taxes in the last-minute dig-up, President Trump prepared a memo they also released. Highlights of the report include one on their 2015 federal return. Trump and his wife declared negative income of $31.7 million with taxable income of $0. The couple paid federal income taxes of $641,000 to the 2016 return, declared negative income of $31.2 million with $0 of taxable income. The chumps paid $750 in taxes. 3 of 2017 return declared a negative income of $12.8 million with $0 in taxable income. The couple paid $750 in taxes for the 2018 return, declared a total income of $24.4 million with taxable income of $22.9 million. The Trumps paid $999,000 in federal income taxes in 2019. The Trumps declared $4.4 million in total income and $2.97 million in taxable income. They paid $133,000 in taxes and the 2020 return shows negative income of $4.7 million with $0 in taxable income. The tax paper that Trump's was $0 and they claimed a refund of $5.47 million. After the release of Trump's tax returns by the House on Friday, the president lashed out at Democrats in the Supreme Court, threatening catastrophic consequences for the country. Quote, "The Democrats should have never done it. The Supreme Court should have never approved it, and it's going to lead to horrible things for so many people. The great USA divide will now grow far worse," President Trump said in his statement. He continues, quote, "The Trump tax returns once again show how proudly successful I have been and how I have been able to use depreciation and various other tax deductions as an incentive for creating thousands of jobs and magnificent structures and enterprises." Trump also blasted the fact-checkers Forbes fake story about his tax returns, quote, "Many of their other numbers are wrong too, but by even bigger proportions, but that's okay. Being wrong doesn't matter to the fake news," Trump concluded. Judge the client's return to Mark McCloskey as Guns and Money. Despite his part in a Missouri judge on Wednesday declined to return Mark McCloskey firearms and paid fines despite his receipt of a pardon from Republican Governor Mike Parson. The St. Louis lawyer and his wife Patricia came into the public light in 2020. When the pair pointed firearm at demonstrators who had entered their neighborhood, there were no shots fired during the incident. As part of a July 2021 plea deal, the couple have surrendered their AR-15 and a .380 caliber pistol. Quote, "While the governor's pardon does clear plaintiff's record of the conviction, his guilt remains on the terms of an agreement that fee dedicated said guilt also remains," said Judge Joan Moriarty. The McCloskey is therefore quote, "required to follow through with their end of the bargain." The McCloskey is intended to appeal the decision. The couple's search to start on within the conservative movement after footage of their standoff went viral, and the pair spoke at the Republican National Convention in 2020. Biden signs $1.7 trillion omnibus bill on vacation after feds fly the bill to St. Croix. Joe Biden on Thursday signed a $1.7 trillion omnibus spending package while on vacation in St. Croix. The bill was flown to the Virgin Islands for his signature after the paperwork was not completed prior to his departure from Washington, D.C. The package includes more than $850 billion for defense spending, more than $770 billion in domestic discretionary spending, and roughly $45 billion in aid to Ukraine and NATO. Senate Republicans led by Minority Leader Mitch McConnell lined up to advance the measure over the objections of the House GOP, which had advocated that lawmakers wait to set the 2023 budget until they could take control of the lower chamber next week and extract concessions from the Democrats. McConnell declined to do so. His position on the matter has driven a wedge between the Kentucky Republican and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who is currently struggling to secure enough votes to become Speaker of the House, and the opposition to his leadership from some conservative members of his caucus. 2020 to saw more California business says relocate to Florida. Despite Governor Gavin Newsom's invitation to Floridians to move to California ahead of the November election, California businesses continue to leave and increasingly to Florida, while their top relocation destination is overwhelmingly Texas. Several major companies have relocated to Florida since Newsom has been in office. The most recent include several major companies that announced their relocation plans this year after TechFlight began from Silicon Valley to Miami in late 2020. American Technology Network Corporation, a leader in the tech optic industry, was relocating to Florida from California because, quote, "California is no longer a state in which this growth can continue." The company said in a news release, its new Florida facility will be more technically advanced with a more streamlined warehouse and shipping area, allowing ATN, quote, "to deliver the highest quality of products to its customers in a more efficient manner." Its chairman and chief marketing officer Mark Vane said as other tech giants left the Bay Area, Miami Mayor Francis Suarez said he began receiving a lot of calls from tech executives. He stated, quote, There's absolutely no doubt that a big part of the reason why they are moving is that they feel that there is an inhospitable environment for regulation and taxation. He continues, quote, "There is an attitude that has been expressed by some leaders that says we don't want you and we don't need you." He said, referring to California politicians. He continues, quote, "Is the opposite of how can I help attitude or how can I grow this ecosystem," referring to that of Florida's leaders. Businesses relocating to Florida also pay far less in taxes. California has 8.84% corporate income tax and average combined state and local sales tax of 8.82% makes it one of the most expensive states to do business. By comparison, Florida's 5% corporate income tax and average combined state and local taxes rate of 7% makes it less expensive to do business. California's tax system ranks 48th on the Tax Foundation's 2022 State Business Tax Climate Index, whereas Florida ranks 4th. Embattled GOP Representative-elect Santos faces federal investigation over campaign lies. Embattled New York GOP Representative-elected George Santos is facing a federal investigation of false claims he made during his campaign for office. The Eastern District of New York announced on Thursday that it would pursue the investigation. Prosecutors have not yet identified any specific criminal option and the investigation remains in the preliminary stages. During the campaign, his website claimed that the Republican received a degree from Baruch College when in fact, he had never attended that institution, nor received a college degree of any kind. Moreover, Santos falsely claimed to have worked for Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, but now says that he actually worked for a separate company that merely did business with both firms. Cap in his campaign whoppers was a claim that his family had fled Germany to escape the Holocaust. It claimed multiple reports have called into question. Santos is a Roman Catholic. Santos flipped a competitive Long Island congressional district in the 2022 midterm elections. His Democratic opponent, Robert Zimmerman, has called on him to resign and participate in a special election rematch. Santos has thus far resisted calls to resign and is slated to take office next week. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. If you're up for it, I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.